Jack Hughes gets the golden goal as the United States wins its first Olympic gold medal since 1980. I'm Joey Lavelle, that is Briggs McMore, and this is the Nothing But Sports podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate your views. Sorry about last week. We weren't able to pump another one out. Scheduling went a little crazy, but we're back to normal schedule. Today we're just going to do a very Olympics-centered episode as it wrapped up. We had the NFL Combine coming up, the World Baseball Classic, and March Conference tournaments in college basketball are about to start. So we will get to that probably Friday. But today, it has been a good couple of days to be an American. 46 years in the making, and the United States finally gets a men's gold medal. And it's just the last couple of weeks have been awesome. NBC has done absolutely tremendous with its coverage, especially on Peacock. I don't know as much of how it was on cable, but I had Peacock over the month with the Super Bowl and the Olympics on, and Gold Zone was absolutely awesome. I cannot complain about that at all. Gold Zone was absolutely awesome. And it was really cool to watch some of these athletes compete. Obviously, the time zone kind of sucked, but, it was really cool. The U.S. performed really well. It's most medals since 2010 with 33. Their most golds ever in a Winter Olympics, which is 2012. Or, I'm sorry, most golds ever, which is 12. And so I think the U.S. really could have had a couple more gold medals. I think a lot of athletes kind of succumbed to Olympic pressure, which is a phrase you've heard a lot throughout the tournament, especially with Ilya Malinin having his moment, Michaela Shiffrin struggling early in the games. There are a couple more that I can't think of off the top of my head. I mean, Keisha Love had done really well. Corinne Stoddard fell a couple times after having a great World Cup season. So, saw a lot of that. But I think the U.S. broke a lot of records. Alana Myers Taylor is the oldest woman to medal in an Olympic individual event. I think that's what the stat was. Jordan Stolz broke multiple Olympic records. And even from not the United States side, so many athletes had broken records, whether it's the first time something's been done or just broken Olympic records. So it was absolutely awesome to see how well these athletes had performed. And last little tidbit here, the viewership was the highest since the 2014 Olympics in, I believe it was Sochi, with 23.5 million viewers on average day by day. So absolutely awesome Olympics. I think NBC did a great job for those of us Americans. And Briggs, I'll kick it to you for your overview and general thoughts as we have wrapped up the 2026 Milan Olympics.
So you touched on the increase in viewership. It was a 96% increase in average daily viewership over the Beijing Games, which was in 2022. On Thursday, so this past Thursday, averaged 25 million viewers throughout the day, with 5 million people tuning in for the USA-Canada women's game, which for those of you who weren't able to watch it middle of the day on a Thursday, don't blame me. Absolutely phenomenal. Complete barn burner of a game. In this one, I think was kind of flipped in what you'd expect. The U.S. has dominated Canada in women's hockey for the last couple go-arounds, and for Canada to come out and kind of punch the U.S. in the mouth the way they did, way to keep that one interesting, because the first matchup between the two was anything but. And then I think one of the big ways you can characterize the Olympics for the Americans was you had a bunch of heartbreaks and then a bunch of just absolute comebacks, whether that was coming back from retirement, that we saw with Alyssa Liu winning gold after she stepped back from figure skating just because she didn't feel like she was doing it for herself. She wasn't enjoying it, which is something that we see very often with a lot of these younger athletes, where we see kids who are starting to go just focusing on one sport. They're not having fun. They're just grinding. I want to say that they're going too far into it at such a young age that they're burning out earlier and earlier. I think that was something that we saw with her. And so to see her come back, I think she came back to figure skating a year and a half, 2 years ago, won like the USA National Figure Skating Championship tournament thing. I'm not sure the exact title for it. And then to come back and win Olympic gold this year. What a story. Michaela Schifrin took gold after an 8-year drought on the podium. And I think it's called downhill slalom. But she got that. Then, of course, you had the men's taking gold after a 46-year drought of gold. And last time I saw it was 1980, following the miracle, which, for those of you who didn't know, February 22nd, it was George Washington's birthday. So no way we were losing to Canada on George Washington's birthday. 46 years to the date of the miracle on ice, which, again, that was the semifinal, not the final. We didn't win gold that day, but still major moment in U.S. hockey history. It was also Johnny Jr.'s birthday. So John Gaudreau tragically passed away, which, what an amazing moment on the ice following the game. For Dylan Larkin, who was the other one?
It was Matthew Tkachuk and
It
Zach
was, no,
Werenski.
I thought Dylan Larkin was one of the guys that went. Tkachuk held the flag. Dylan Larkin and Zach Werenski went over and grabbed the Gaudreau's kids and brought them on the ice for the picture.
And
That
then
I thought was
Tkachuk brought him back. That was my
I
thing.
thought that was a really special moment there. Just to see that and to see the Gaudreau family there. I mean, what, like that? I shed a tear there. I also shed a tear that we won the game, but what a moment that was. And then you had some of the heartbreaks. Of course, Lindsey Vonn, her career very likely to be done at this point, requiring 4 surgeries that at this point helped prevent her leg from being amputated. I don't know if you guys saw that. But they had to have those emergency surgeries back in the US to help save her leg. I think it was what was it called? A compound fracture.
It's a complex tibia fracture, I think.
Compound complex. A lot of comps. We're getting pretty good at those. And then Ilya Malinin, of course, you mentioned it. The pressure that just comes with being in the Olympics is immense at such a young age. I believe he's in his early 20s. I mean, he's like my age. I
21.
certainly couldn't deal with the pressure and the weight of the literal world watching me. And for him to be such an odds-on favorite to win and to go out, and he's unbelievable to just watch him. I mean, it is fluidity and poetry on ice. It's just unbelievable. And you talk about watching hockey players skate with grace, watching him do backflips and kind of just move around the ice. It waves and it flows. It's just so graceful to watch. But to see him stumble, definitely that one hurt a little bit. But he'll be back. He's got plenty of time, and he is more than talented. But yeah, those kind of encapsulate the wider story of heartbreaks and comebacks for the U.S. at the 2026 games.
Yeah, and for Malinin specifically, it's like I just turned 21. He is 21 currently. To be called with a Google commercial streaming all throughout the Olympics, to be proclaimed by the media as a god, a quad god, to be proclaimed as that, I couldn't imagine that pressure. So, but congratulations to all the Americans that medaled. We had 33 of them. Congrats to everyone that won gold. Some unlikely names. And yeah, just congrats to everyone. Hope to see a lot of them back in 2030. Wow, that's a long time. But we'll move into some of our best
Hold on.
moments.
Real quick before I get this. I got a question. So over the course of the Olympics, we've seen certain sports, curling is the big one, but like big air for skiing and snowboarding, the half pipe, these sports, every time around the Olympics, they become really popular. Do you think that something like curling would benefit from a like major professional league in the United States where they would get that constant viewership? Or do you think it's better for the sport to keep it kind of primarily in the Olympics so that every 4 years, like you're not so used to it being on TV that you're like, oh, I don't really want to tune in. Like I know it's going to happen, but you like tune in because you're like, oh, when was the last time I watched curling on TV?
So, well, I mean, obviously, most of these Olympic sports have X Games, which a lot of these people compete in. A lot of these athletes compete in, and so I do. I don't know if it would get viewership as much as it would during the Olympics specifically. So it does. It doesn't. I don't think it would benefit, nor would it's kind of feels like it would be like a TGL type thing where it's like people aren't really gonna watch it, especially in the winter where you have college basketball, you have NBA, you have NHL. So I don't know if it would necessarily benefit. I mean, all these athletes compete in these competitions with, so I don't think that it would benefit, nor would it succeed. Like these athletes would still have to work day jobs, specifically with curling. I don't know if you saw the interview where Corey Teese and Corey Dropkin mentioned that they do have day jobs, but I just don't think it would either succeed or it would be beneficial to the sport. Do you have thoughts on that?
I mean, that was one of the big things that I was thinking was I didn't know if it would be if the viewership came from people like me who enjoy watching curling every 4 years, but I don't know if it's something that I want to routinely watch because I think I would then get bored of it.
I think in the summer it would work, but obviously it's a winter sport, so it wouldn't be as well. Like I I've told you this multiple times. I don't think I've said it on air. Like every women's sports league, if you can do it in the summer. Like obviously college athletes can't do that. Like they have school schedule. But do it in the summer where there's nothing going on, where you can allow your sport to grow and get some of these ESPN deals rather than your stuff being behind a paywall on ESPN Plus. Maybe you can get a deal with TNT because these networks really want some sort of sport, especially in the summer, other than just MLB baseball. So I think I think any sport that kind of starts in the summer, and you've kind of seen that with the WNBA, how they grew a little bit throughout the. You look very confused, but how they grew being a more summer league. So that is my those are that's my opinion. Like I said, if any women's sports commissioners ever listen to this podcast, I would say schedule your leagues, especially in the months from June to say August. So, but speaking our best moments, speaking of curling, Corey Teese and Corey Dropkin advanced to the gold medal game. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Corey Teese became the first American woman to medal in curling. This is the first U.S. medal in mixed doubles. Obviously, unfortunately, they lost to the Rana siblings who won the gold, which that either way, that was absolutely electric. So it really got curling going with the momentum. I thought that was awesome. Jordan Stolz broke two Olympic records, won two gold and one silver. I mentioned this earlier. Lana Myers Taylor finally wins the gold in her fifth Olympic Games for her sixth medal. She becomes one of the most decorated female individual athletes of all time in the Olympics. Michaela Schifrin won a gold after a medalist 2022 Games, and it's been a while since she won. It was like the early part of 2018 when she won her last medal. She became the first woman to win gold three times in giant slalom, I think is what it was. Alyssa, you mentioned it. Alyssa Liu won gold after retiring and coming back. She wasn't the favorite by any means. So it was a lot more Amber Glenn. It was awesome to see her come out and do her thing. The U.S. medaled twice in cross-country skiing, which I think is worth mentioning considering Norway makes their money in cross-country skiing. That's where they're so dominant. Jesse Diggins and Ben Ogden won those medals. And Johannes Klabo went 6 for 6 in gold medals. This guy, absolute freaking animal. Like, it's just unbelievable. And he's might end up reaching Michael Phelps status. And so these moments are kind of go hand in hand. Hillary Knight becomes the scoringest woman in U.S. and I believe all of Olympic history with 33 points and 15 goals. She notched that in the gold medal game. And the Megan Keller golden goal, and we'll talk about this in a second, one of the greatest winning goals I've ever seen to win a championship. And the Jack Hughes golden goal is another absolutely awesome moment. And then the exhibition gala. I don't know if you saw that. I think it was on the second to last day. It was on Saturday. That was pretty cool. Where there's no pressure on. They were just kind of doing their own thing. I think it was the Pakistani guy that won the gold in men's figure skating. He came out as Kung Fu Panda. And so I thought that was pretty cool. I think one of the Spanish duos came out and did a little soccer thing while they were doing their figure skating routine. So there were no judges, nothing like that. It was just kind of a free-flowing thing. The part where the U.S. did their thing, that was pretty cool as well, especially as a team, because the team won gold. So a lot of pretty cool little things in there, especially to watch without judges, with no pressure. It was just kind of it was a show. It was a gala. So I thought that was pretty cool. Any parting thoughts before we move into the hockey?
I think Malinan hit a backflip during that gala as well, which I saw the highlight from that. I mean, just watching that in person, knowing that, when you fall, I mean, how many times did he do that and, not hit it before he actually hit it? I feel like there's got to be a learning curve, and that's got to be a painful learning curve. So,
You got to be wearing shin pads and stuff when you're
I
practicing
mean,
this.
probably a full, Iron Man level
You
suit.
you got to come out looking like the Michelin Man. Like, um, yeah. I mean, and hopefully, speaking of going in person, hopefully we can make it by 2034, which is when they come to Salt Lake City. So that was a little nugget for us. Moving into the hockey, and we'll start with the women's, we'll go to the men's, and then I really want to encapsulate what it means overall for USA hockey.
I'm going
And
to be
so
31.
in 2034,
Yeah.
what's that, 8 years from now? Oh my gosh. She's 29. It's insane. That's gross. I don't want to think about that. That's gross. Anyway,
Anyways,
yeah, that's gross. I don't want to think about that. But gosh, dude, I can't imagine. I just turned 21, bro. God, I can't even think about that. But for the women's hockey, you kind of mentioned it earlier. I thought it was a great fight by Canada. I think, and I think I said this. I think I said it on the pod. But the Marie-Philip Poulin is what makes that engine go. She's what makes the engine go for the Canadians. So obviously, I think with her, they put on a much better performance. And I will say, to see her absolutely gutted, it does make me feel for her a little bit. Her specifically, it does, because I think this is her last Olympics. So it does make me feel for her a little bit. Women's, they were historic. They were 7-0. Only one game went to overtime. They had 5 consecutive shutouts between the second game and the gold medal game, before the gold medal game. In this game, goaltending was superb on both sides. And Renee Debian, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Aaron Frankel, they were both tremendous in this game. I believe both teams had over 30 shots, and both goalies had over 30 saves. Both had over 90%. So they were superb. A lot of elite players from college on this U.S. team. You have Lila Edwards and Caroline Harvey, which were the two big names. Lila Edwards, obviously, she scored, I think, 2 goals throughout the tournament. Caroline Harvey had 9 points, won the MVP for the tournament. And Caroline Harvey, and I think I've said this to you, Caroline Harvey is to women's hockey as Caitlin Clark was to women's basketball. Just there's not as much eyes on women's college hockey, but I think there will be a little more now. And Caroline Harvey is like the mix of Caitlin Clark and Cale Makar. So she was awesome to watch. I think the PWHL is going to have a little bit of a spike if they can manufacture that, if they get the proper advertising and whatnot. Actually, I watched the replay again, the replay of the goal today. That read by Megan Keller was absolutely insane. It was absolutely insane. For her to give the puck back, I can't remember who it was that made the pass to her. But for her to do that and then come swoop around like a center and go all the way up the ice while Canada was in the middle of a line change, just superb. That is just top tier hockey IQ. And it just superb hockey IQ. I can't get past that enough. And then seeing John Robleski's emotion as a guy that's kind of seemed like a hard ass throughout the entire tournament, see his emotion at the end of that game when they won the gold, just that really says it all. It shows how much it meant to him as a guy that I'm sure is trying to climb up the ranks in hockey in general. I think it was awesome to see the pure, raw emotion from him the moment that puck went in the net, Briggs.
So, first off, you mentioned Layla Edwards having 2 goals. One thing that really stood out to me throughout the duration of watching the women's team play, she has an absolute cannon of a shot. I mean, by far, I think the hardest shot in the women's tournament. And you look at that Hillary Knight goal that was deflected in. I mean, just imagine as one of the women's goalies trying to read that shot from Layla Edwards without it being deflected, coming in as hard as it is, just through those bodies in general. And then for Hillary Knight to be able to deflect that in. Oh, I mean, absolutely incredible. And then you talk about the play for Megan Keller to win it. And you talk about the IQ to do the center hook around. I believe she's a defenseman. How about the stick handling to get around the Canadian player and then tuck it 5-hole? I mean, it was just poetry in motion. Again, not to overuse the term, but quite literally, I mean, a work of art happening before our eyes. And Aaron Frankel, I mean, I can't even, like, words can't describe her performance. To face, I believe it was 99 shots over the course of the tournament and only allowed 2 in is unbelievable. I was thinking it's a 980 save percentage. I mean, that's pretty dang good. I mean, that's unbelievable. I thought she should have been the MVP of the tournament. Given, I mean, you could argue, hey, you put someone else in there, does the outcome change too much? But some of the saves that she made in the game against Canada kept the U.S. in it. I mean, that game could have very easily been 3-0, 4-0 going into the third had it not been for Frankel just standing on her head.
I will push back because Caroline Harvey did have the most points in a single tournament ever. So I think, and we said this about the men because honestly didn't know a lot about the women's team going into the tournament. I think you and I both would be willing to admit that, but it's kind of an embarrassment of riches thing, and I think it says a lot about the college hockey pipeline that we have, especially for the women, to have, I believe it was 7 or 8 at least on college hockey teams, and the youth that provided for this veteran Hillary Knight to lead is by far the greatest American women's player of all time. And just to watch this team go through and like mature as a team. They'd only been together for a couple weeks. I know they've been playing together for a while, but to see them mature and grow to go through this tournament, it was absolutely awesome. And I think U.S. women's hockey is going to be in a great place, and I'll mention that a little bit more in a minute. But just absolutely awesome to watch this team. I know I've sent you a lot of posts where it's like, this team has so much juice to it. Like seeing the speeches in the locker room from John Robleski pregame, it like you could tell this team had so much juice and so much fire to it that women's hockey in the U.S. is going to be in such a great place, and it's only going to get better. And I think Lila Edwards, Caroline Harvey, Hannah Bilica, I think is her name, Megan Keller. Obviously, Hillary Knight's been doing it for a while in her 5th Olympics now. Just to see all these women to inspire young women to join one of the greatest games, if not the greatest game on earth. It's just awesome to see, and I hope that this has the impact that I think it will, and I really hope that it does. Moving to the men's, as you said about both these games, what barn burner. What a barn burner. As Briggs, I'll get your thoughts first on the men's overall.
So I'm first gonna start this off by what does this mean for Austin Matthews? He's gotten over the hump now. He's finally won something. And now you look at, if you're a Maple Leafs fan, does this sting because you know it was against Canada? Or does this feel good because now you're like, okay, maybe it's not Matthews that's the problem, and there may be other issues with the organization that we can look at fixing?
So let me ask you this. Let me bounce back because I didn't think of this till now. Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes coming out, and I didn't watch the interview personally. I saw the quotes. For Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes to come out and be like, Austin Matthews led us to a championship. What is Toronto media going to say about that now? You've never seen anything close to that coming out of Toronto. So it kind of seems more like a Toronto problem than a Austin Matthews problem. Is Austin Matthews is now an Olympic gold medalist in the first best on best that in the Olympic Games that we've had in 12 years. So what are your thoughts kind of on that
Well,
moving forward?
my other thing is those problems with Toronto have existed far before Matthews was there. I mean, I'm 99% sure Matthews wasn't there when Toronto blew the 3-1 lead in game 7 against Boston. I'm pretty sure that was 2013.
What year?
I'm pretty sure it was 2013. I'm not
Okay, yeah, you're right.
100% sure. I'm 99% sure it was 2013. It may have been 2014. But still, I believe Matthews was drafted in 2016?
Yeah.
So, again, those problems have existed far beyond Matthews' time in Montreal. Or not Montreal, Toronto. Massive slip up there. That's pretty bad. And so I think that you now have to look somewhere else than Matthews, given his track record in those elimination games for Toronto hasn't been the greatest. That's can't deny that. It could be a lot better, and you probably should expect more from a guy you're paying the unbelievable amount of money to. But I think there's some organizational problems that need to be looked at before you start pointing the finger at Matthews moving forward. But also, what does this mean for Hellebuck? What does this mean for some of these JT Miller, some of these other guys that I'm not saying you as in you, but I'm saying you as in the media. You have called old, washed, past their prime to go out and have the performances that they had. Hellebuck's now got the nickname of the Secretary of Defense, and now literally has a plaque from Air Force Two to support that. So I don't understand how, especially some of these Canadian teams that are gonna have to go back and be like, we have to support him now. He's wearing a Winnipeg jersey or he's wearing a Toronto jersey. And I wonder how they're gonna have to cope with this.
We've kind of been knowing the problems with the Canadian teams in general. There's a reason they haven't won. And look, you've had plenty of opportunities, so it's not that there's more U.S. teams than Canadian teams. They've had plenty of opportunities over the past 30, 40 years. So I think it's an organizational problem, and the biggest losers of the tournament are the players that won for the U.S. but have to go live in Canada now, 100%. Because one, they have to live in Canada. Two, because I don't know where else I was going with that. I just, but yeah, I mean, and they had to deal with the Canadian media. I mean, you remember when Rick Bowness led the Winnipeg Jets to the President's Trophy and they lost to the Avalanche in the first round, who ultimately, I think, ended up losing in the second round that year. So, and it was all like Hellebuck's not a clutch performer, which has some validity to it. He hasn't performed overly well in the playoffs in his career. But I think a lot of these guys got some of the monkeys off their backs, where Dylan Larkin never performed it. I think he hasn't performed in a postseason environment, and I would argue this has been very much postseason environment. He hasn't performed in a postseason environment since his rookie year in 2014. No, it was later than that. But whenever the last time Detroit made the playoffs was, but I think it's been 9 or 10 years. But hasn't performed in a postseason environment, and now to go win, and now you can go back to your team and be like, "Hey, I'm the captain of this team, and like I can lead us." I've seen it done with Matthews and Tkachuk, who has won, and I think the other captain was McAvoy. Yeah, it was McAvoy, who has won at the highest level, at the Stanley Cup level. So I think it means a lot for a lot of those guys, especially to go experience that joy. I do think you're going to get to a slow start just overall throughout the league as you get through, like you start back up. Kind of how it was like a very not great end, like guys were ready to go on break or go to the Olympics. But I think you're going to have a slow start, and then you're going to see these teams really ramping up and really trying to make the playoffs, and especially from these American players carrying the momentum in. But enough about the NHL. Overall thoughts on the game, Briggs?
Um, I'm trying to figure out where I have a lot to say, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to start with this. And I think I'm
I'll
gonna
start.
keep
I'll start.
what
I
I
can
got it.
start.
I got it.
Okay.
I yeah, I'm gonna kind of go outside of the game to segue into the game here. For all of the Canadians, and you want to, I'm gonna pick on Nathan McKinnon here for a second when he said, "You be the judge of who the better team was." This was supposed to be the greatest hockey team ever assembled. The greatest, 20 guys on a roster ever put together. You had a line consisted of Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, and Macklin Celebrini. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, look who the better team was. You were supposed to be the better team, but you didn't score more goals, which is the point of the game. Hellebuck stood on his head. There is absolutely no denying that fact. The U.S. needed that to happen in order to win the game, and it did. He stood on his head during the game. We got a couple of lucky bounces, and that's that. Now, for the Canadians in general, McKinnon missed an empty net. Could not have been more wide open. And I don't think that's the first time this has happened either. I saw a clip earlier today. I believe he missed an empty net goal of a very similar type. I think it was against the Devils earlier this season. So again, not the first time he's just shanked one like that. Second, you had a 5-on-3 again with one of the most lethal line combinations you could possibly imagine. You failed to score in a 5-on-3. Both
So I don't want to contribute to the misinformation in the media real quick. Did you see the full Nathan MacKinnon quote? Because I changed my tune on it a little bit before when I saw the full quote.
No.
Did you see the full quote? Okay, so this is the full quote. Before, I don't want to contribute to misinformation or disinformation, whatever the fuck it's called. He said, quote, "It's been close for a while. You know, they're an amazing, skilled group of players. I just felt like it wasn't going to be. You guys can be the judge of who the better team was tonight. But they won, we lost." So just to make that clear, because I don't want to contribute to the misinformation that's going around in the media, because I think that quote was taken entirely out of context, and it was not anywhere close to as bad as the media portrayed it out to be. And that
So
was Canadian and American media, both of them.
So I would still say to that, I don't think that you really need to throw in the, oh, you know who the better team was. Because again, you still lost, and I feel like that's kind of a sore loser thing to say. I mean, given his whole demeanor, I mean, I get it. You just lost gold. His whole demeanor post game was awful.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you and I have never played on that high of a level, but you know how it is when you lose like a sudden death game. Like, it's you don't have your thoughts there, especially when you do it in front of 35 million people are watching that in North America. And like, I think it's hard to judge someone based off of a comment that wasn't as bad as it was originally portrayed to be. And I think it's hard to judge someone based off of that just after losing the game. If he had said that today, okay, like, I get it. But it was a quote right after the game, and I think him getting raked over the coals for this has been kind of egregious, in my opinion. I like Nathan MacKinnon, but I thought it was a lot softer with the original quote. But that's the media for you. But
So now to my next point. The amount of Canadians on social media and whatnot complaining about goddamn 3-on-3 overtime is ridiculous. Are you going to give up your medal from 2010 when you needed 4-on-4 overtime with Sid's golden goal to beat us? That's not 5-on-5 hockey, as you want to call it.
what
Are you
about?
going to give it up
Well, it was
then?
fine for
Are you
Four
going to?
Nations last year, by the way. It was
Yeah,
fine when they
yeah,
beat
that's all I was gonna get. You
what I
wanted.
think it wasn't
I'm
Finland.
trying to get there. God damn it! You always go stealing my points. You needed it to beat Czechia 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago in the semi or quarterfinals. Barely got past the team you were supposed to beat by 3.5. And yet it took 3-on-3 overtime. You guys loved it then. Mitch Marner came in and saved the day. And then, yeah, Four Nations, in which you guys had absolutely no problem winning in 3-on-3 overtime, as Joey so kindly mentioned. But why is it all of a sudden that when Canada loses, it's an issue? Like that's a genuine question for any Canadian out there who wants to answer the question of, oh, it wasn't an issue when you guys won or when it benefited you. But the second that it didn't go your way, when you lost, when you actually had to deal with Americans going and talking shit to you because we just beat you in your national sport, now 3-on-3 isn't real hockey.
I do want to mention this. It's kind of off topic, but Canadians are just out understanding what SEC or like big like college football Twitter is like. Like the combination of Canadians and like college football Twitter, it it's it's pretty funny because like they can't handle the smoke. Like genuinely Canadians have proved that they're soft. Because you started with the complaining with the women's, and then now you go to the men's to complain.
Hold on, I'm about to get here because this is about to get real funny. So the amount of people I've seen, threads, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, Canadians just getting absolutely ratioed to the point where these comment sections have more comments than likes on the post. And you know those comment sections are golden when that ratio is the way it is. And you look at it. And the other thing that has been really big since Sunday is Canadians being like, oh, win with grace, stop gloating, like, oh, we never do this. I don't want to hear it. I've had to deal with a whole year of listening to how good Canada's hockey team is and how much, oh, we run this, oh, the gold is ours. And even after we beat you guys in women's to take the women's gold, you guys were like, oh, yeah, you guys can have women's gold. We're taking men's. It doesn't even really matter. I mean, you guys had it coming for you. We're not sorry. We're not. We're going to let you know that we just beat you in our, what, fourth or fifth favorite sport. I mean, we're going to run you out the building in Miami when we hose you down in baseball. So, I mean, to the Canadians, I mean, you guys have 4 years left to hear in this because who knows the next time we get another Four Nations. I think it's a great concept, but again, I don't think it should be an every year thing. As great of a thing as it is, I think if you have it every year, you're going to water down the product.
So that's a different talking point. But to go back to the Canadians, I'm not actually talk about the game because we've sucked at that. But Canadians just you remember that Sid Sextero video I said, where kind of going to your point, it's like, yeah, everyone's being nice to the States, but we're gonna kick their ass. Yeah, what are you gonna do about McKinnon, McCarr, and McDavid?
What are you going to do about
Well,
Hellebuck?
what it, I think the United States scored the game winner with McKinnon, McCarr, and McDavid on the ice. Mind you, McKinnon and or not McKinnon. McKinnon was the only one back. McCarr and McDavid were just lackadaisically skating back on the goal. It was a 2-on-1. Or it was a 3-on-1 actually, with both McDavid and McCarr behind.
McCarr got
So
beat on a bad pinch too. That Jack Hughes
and what did I
poke.
say before the tournament? What did I say? I said their defense was gonna cost them this tournament, and it did. It didn't cost them in giving up 5 goals, but it costed them in the biggest moments. Look at the Matt Boldy goal. Matt Boldy juked around 2 players to get that goal. That was not a goal that should have happened. The Jack Hughes goal shouldn't have happened. He knocked his tooth out and he still went and scored. Which, you want to talk about who's tougher? Let's talk about the guy that got his teeth knocked out. Mind you, competing against Canadian refs and got his teeth knocked out and still scored the game winner while he's bleeding all over the place. But talk about actually on the game. This game, you mentioned Hellebuck, 41 saves out of 42. It's 46 years in the making. The U.S. was 18-18 on the penalty kill in the tournament. Perfect. And they killed 90 seconds of a 5-on-3 against a power play going into the game that had 41%, which is insane. I don't know if you saw the John Cooper quote. I think he's right, but at the same point, like, I would prefer it to be 5-on-5. Don't get me wrong. Like, especially in a game, because it's not the same. But I've maintained that point since Four Nations, since we did the best on best at Four Nations. So I think it's rough for 3-on-3 to determine the results of such high stakes games, whether it's the women's gold medal, the Stanley Cup playoffs, any playoff type games. I think 3-on-3 is rough. But like I just mentioned, the best 3 players in the world were on the ice. Matt Boldy, Toothless Jack Hughes, American heroes. Quinn Hughes, American hero. And I want to get to this point because I know this is a little bit of a soft spot for you. Was the Hellebuck save, I believe it was against Devontae's. Looked very similar to the Braden Holtby one, which we've had the conversation. That is the greatest save of all time. I would argue that Connor Hellebuck's is better. I'm going to ask you the same question. I think Connor Hellebuck's save was better because, one, it was an eliminate. I think Holtby's was in game 2, right? Game 2
Yes,
of the
but
finals.
had Washington was down at that point in the game,
I'm aware.
and had they lost that game, no way they come back down 2-0.
But was the Hellebuck one the greatest save of all time? I personally think it is. But
I am willing to say they are on equal magnitude. I genuinely don't know how I can put one above the other, because that goal goes in for Vegas. Washington doesn't win a Stanley Cup. That goal goes in for Canada. I still believe that was in the second period, if I'm not mistaken.
the Hellebuck save?
Against Devon Taves, I believe it was the second. So the US still would have had 20 minutes to come back and try and get an equalizer, and that's where I would knock a half to maybe 100th of a point off of my rating on that, and where I would bump up the Holtby save, given both are unbelievable saves. Just, I don't know how much better you can get, but I because of my personal biases, I'm going to have to say that they are equal.
I'm on a Yahoo Sports article, and I think it's saying it was in the third. Yeah, it was. I think. That is my understanding. I think so. But yeah. I had another thought, but I can't remember what it was.
It was the third.
So I would
I will give it to Hellebuck.
Here's a question. Because this is interesting and it kind of leads into our next talking point. Does an Olympic gold medal, not a Four Nations gold medal or a world championship, does an Olympic gold medal mean more I would say to a player than a Stanley Cup. That's tough. I mean, obviously I can't speak from those shoes,
So
but
here,
I
actually,
would. I
here's what I'm
felt
gonna say.
so. I'm gonna say this as a fan, real quick. So I have not seen. Detroit has not won a Stanley Cup since I believe 2008. And it was the last time we won one. Detroit, and I am a Red Wings fan, so I have not seen the Red Wings win a cup. But seeing Ohio State win the national championship in what do we call it 2024? Seeing Ohio State win
The 24-25 season.
yeah, seeing Ohio State win the national championship that year because that's the most recent championship I've had as a fan. I would say the U.S. winning gold means more to me than watching Ohio State win a national championship, especially after the 46 years. I think this gold medal will mean more to me than any other championship in my fandom that I see in my lifetime.
So I'm gonna actually take the opposite. I think for the individual players themselves, I think this Stanley Cup will mean more. And I think they're going to say that because when they talk about Hall of Fame resumes, they're going to mention Stanley Cups more than they're going to mention gold medals.
I would push
When
back.
you get when you get the Stanley Cup, you get your name on the plaque. Your name will forever be enshrined in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Your name will
Okay.
always be there. But 100 years from now, who's going to know that Matthew Tkachuk won gold at the 2026 games?
Okay, here's a question. And this is hard to do. Take away Sid's Stanley Cup, say he never won a cup. But he was the clutchest player in. Would you still like first ballot Hall of Fame for Sid?
Well, how can you
I
say
think that's
he's
the
still
best
the
example
clutchest? Well, how can you say he's still the clutchest player if you take away his Stanley
for
Cups,
the
he's never gotten over the
Canadians.
hump?
For the Canadians. Like, you have his clutch moments in the Olympics, but say he, like, say we're in an alternate timeline.
So hold on.
With
So he's pretty
this is a
much
very
Austin
hypothetical
Matthews.
scenario, huh?
So he's pretty much Austin Matthews, is what you're saying.
I would argue Sid would have been more clutch, but yeah. I
No,
mean,
he would
he
not be a first
scored
ballot Hall of
Golden
Famer.
Globes. I would argue he is.
He'd be a Hall of Famer. He would not be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I I would think so. It personally, maybe not. Okay, all right. I know we
Because
still
you
got a
take away
lot. Oh no, we still got a lot to talk about, and we're running out of time. So let's move on. Um, so I'm gonna go into what this means for USA Hockey as a whole because Briggs and I have both played not for a high level like the national development team, but we have signed up our names into the USA Hockey database and played for them for many a years since. When did you start playing? Like when you were 6? I started playing when I was 8, I think.
I think I was 5.
So I started playing when I was 8. Briggs started playing when he was 5. So we've been signing our names for USA Hockey for a long time, and I've watched the sport for a long time, for 13 years, which is a long time to me being 21. But there's 26 million viewers for all the NBC, including the reruns. 35 million in North America in OT. The women's had a 5.3 average, peak at 7.7 in overtime. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, Caroline Harvey, Hillary Knight, Bilica, Hannah Bilica, Lila Edwards, and more have inspired thousands, at least thousands, if not tens and hundreds of thousands of young women to go join the greatest game on earth. And I think I can speak for both of us on this podcast. Double gold means so much to us that have played the sport and watched the sport from the USA Hockey perspective for a very long time. I unfortunately was not able to watch both games. I rewatched both games on Sunday night. And to see the Megan Keller goal and then to turn on the overtime of the USA men's, and seeing those both happen on separate TVs at the same time, it almost brought a tear to my eyes. Speaking as bringing a tear, the tribute to Johnny was absolutely awesome. It was perfect for the moment, especially for a team that's been inspired, especially with Zach Wierenski and Matthew Tkachuk, who have played with Johnny for at least a couple years. All the guys had played with Johnny. Most of the guys had played with Johnny at some point. That was awesome, especially with the way Johnny's life had ended and bringing his entire family and his kids out on the ice to be able to celebrate and kind of be a part of the moment was really awesome. And I think Mike Tirico dropped this quote. The 1980 team inspired generations, and I wholeheartedly believe this gold medal will inspire a lot of young hockey players, especially where Briggs and I were at a young elementary school age, to try to get to that next level, or even the guys that are about to get drafted or just got drafted to make the team. And even guys like J-Rob who didn't make the team. And it's so awesome to see. Like, you saw Jack Hughes and talking about the USA Hockey immediately after the game, talking about the USA Hockey Brotherhood is so good and so strong. They've only been together for 2 weeks, and they're rivals anytime else, but in this tournament they've been together. And before I'll mention these real quick. Kenny Albert, he was on both golden goal calls all time. I would personally say the Megan Keller one was better, personally. But just 2 all-time golden goal calls. And those will live in history forever. Especially modern TV. Those calls, like the Chris Fowler, this is the one I have on top of my head. Chris Fowler with the Jeremiah 3rd and 11 with Jeremiah Smith. Those type of calls will live in history forever. And for Kenny Albert to be able to encapsulate the moment the way he did in such a tight-knit game, both 2-1 games, it was absolutely awesome to see. And then them moving to Mike Tirico right after the men's gold medal game, which was the last medal that was won in the Olympic Games. The way Mike Tirico closed out the games on his own little show that he had after the gold medal game and right after the gold medal game, the month that Mike Tirico has had has been amazing. And I can't say this for certain because I don't know the dynamics in NBC, but it very much was Doc Emmerich-esque. And I don't know if you saw the preview for the women's game where Doc Emmerich was doing that. The way he encapsulated the moment at the end of the games and about sports in general as a guy that is, I believe, called every sport, it was very Doc Emmerich-esque, and he encapsulated the moment so well. And Mike Tirico might be the GOAT of sports commentating when it's all said and done. It just absolutely amazing. And as I said earlier, NBC's coverage was absolutely awesome. So Briggs, we'll dive into your thoughts on what it means for USA Hockey, and then we'll get to our last point, because I assume you know where I'm referring to.
So after the 1980 gold, there was a lasting, like it was more than just a game. All the political backdrop that was set there with the Soviets in the U.S. I think you saw a spike in hockey at that time. And you saw a spike in hockey around, I think it was around 2000. And now you're starting to see some of those kids grow up. In what I think the USA Hockey had one of its best years, I think in like 2006, 2007, like that 2006 to 2008 timeline. And those kids are now Olympic gold medal champions, with a lot of those younger guys on this team being a part of that wave of new signees, newcomers to the sport. And when I look at youth hockey now, and I mean, we saw it when we were still in middle school and high school. I mean, I don't think that there's a better um, trajectory that the sport could be on. So many young kids are learning to play. I've got a young cousin who's learning to play. It is awesome to see that now that we've kind of grown out of it and we still try and participate in it when we can, but to see like this next generation come up, to see these young kids who have they haven't experienced the pain that we've had to go through watching the Sid Golden goal in 2010, watching Oshi's game in 2014 just to be let down in the semifinals. Just all of that pain and anguish finally got lifted off of our shoulders on Sunday. And these kids will be able to go and live in the glory of what happened and grow up knowing of what's possible.
USA hockey is in such a great place, and like I get slightly emotional just talking about it because like it means so much to the sport. 35 million viewers in North America, 26 million watched it. And I don't know how accurate those numbers are. I assume they're relatively accurate. But there's just I think it means so much for the sport. And if the US could ever pull off something like this again in 2034, it it just means so much. I think it would mean so much to the sport, and I think the sport has so much momentum right now. Especially, it lost a bunch of momentum after the lockout. And you mentioned USA Hockey having a spike in 2006, I think is what you said. I think it's gonna have a spike again. I think young kids are really gonna be inspired to do the sport. And like you and I have had this conversation multiple times. We would love to give back to that next generation, whether it's trying to coach a rec league team so that way they can make their way to travel. Like whatever the case is, I would I would love to give back to the sport in any way I can because hockey has meant so much to me growing up, and to see it, especially with people that are starting to come around. Matt Boldy is not too much older than we are. I think he's maybe like 3 years older than you, but
Not only of how much it has meant to us, but how much it has given us. I mean,
like
look at the lasting. Like you and I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for hockey. Look at the lasting friendships, even outside of the podcast that we have, because of the sport of hockey. And just all of the fantastic people we've been able. I was able to meet TJ Oshie here in Columbia, South Carolina. Now, what he was doing in the middle of October at a South Carolina Alabama game is unbeknownst to me, but still to have those experiences are just, I mean, it's unbelievable. I can't describe a better feeling. And I don't know if there's another sport that is like that. To each their own.
but and I hate to go on this note, and I know you have thoughts on this as well. If you are and Briggs kind of mentioned it earlier, if you are making anything about this gold medal, whether it's the team going to the White House or the women deny, I don't care. If you're making any of this political, specifically within the country, go fuck yourself. Genuinely. Go fuck yourself. Like, and I don't like cussing on this podcast, but this is the Nothing But Sports podcast. I don't want to talk about politics on here. I don't like talking politics in general because I think it's dumb. And a lot of the people in politics are just liars. But if the president of the United States invites you to the White House because you won the game for the country, you go to the White House. Unless you have scheduling conflicts, which a lot of the women on the USA team have class probably tomorrow. Like, but if you're making this political and saying, giving Jack Hughes, anyone else crap about wanting to support the country, despite that, I don't care who's in office. I genuinely don't. If the president of the United States invites you, you go. Now, you can have your opinions about the administration, and I'm sure a lot of those guys do. I'm sure we all have our own opinions on politics. But if the president of the United States invites you somewhere, it's an honor. And if the president of the United States wants to talk to you on the phone, you go talk to him when you just won a medal for the United States of America. It doesn't matter what administration it is. It could be the person that you think is the absolute worst in politics. I don't care. I would go. I would love to go to the White House because I did something for the country. You did. Winning that gold medal meant so much to the country, even the people that don't even watch hockey. So why is and I sent you this earlier. Why, when I look up stats from the game, am I getting, oh, the U.S. women's team declined, which wasn't the case. That was a lie, but declined the invitation to the White House, which it just is false. Or the United States is at this, the U.S. men's hockey team is at the State of the Union. I don't care. Like, it should not be political. Sports are sports. They're supposed to bring us together. Like I mentioned with the Mike Tirico thing, sports are supposed to bring us together. Why are we trying to let them tear us apart? Why are we inserting politics in our personal beliefs into the sport? It should just be happy. Like, it should be a moment for us to come together as a country, not for us to tear apart. After the 1980 Olympics, people were celebrating in the streets because they did the miracle on ice and then won gold. You don't have that now. You have people saying Jack Hughes is bad because he likes Trump. Like, fuck you, dude. Like, you should not be doing this on Twitter. There's no reason for the political discourse around this. There's really not. We're not in the Cold War anymore. We're not threatened by another nation. There's literally no reason for this. Briggs, I'll go to you.
It's a sad political state that our country is in. There is no doubt about it. But at the same time, there is no reason for politics to be inserted into sports. And for all of it is fantastic. All of the people who have never watched a hockey game before tune in to watch arguably one of the best hockey games I've ever seen. One of the most memorable. I will remember this hockey game for the rest of my life. And for it to be tainted with such malice, I think is a good way to put it. Like if you're like, I don't know Jack Hughes personally. You don't know Jack Hughes, but no one outside of his actual inner circle knows him personally. You don't know what his political beliefs are. You might be able to assume or glean something off of it if you find something he's liked on social media, but you don't know what's in his head. So for you to go and be like, oh, he supports this person because he answered the phone from the president or he talked with the president momentarily. That's an odd. If the president called me right now, I'm picking it up and talking to him about whatever. I hope it would be about some major accomplishment I had. It would truly be an honor. I don't care who the president is. But for me to be personally called by the president of the United States would be a tremendous honor. And it's one of those things where you respect the office. You don't have to respect the person. You don't have to like the person. But you respect the office because it's an important office. It's one of those things where regardless of who's in it, it means like the president means something. And to be known personally, whether you're a megastar who's getting called for winning a gold medal or you're some random Joe on the street who did something incredible, whether stopping an active shooter or I'm just throwing something out there where you might get called from the president. But beyond the point, I think there needs to be a separation of politics and sports because this is something that should be happy. I mean, as you said, I would have loved to go jumping around the street at 9:30 in the morning, I think 10:30 in the morning local time here. But yeah, that's just my general thoughts there.
And I hate to end it on that note, but it's
such a sour note too.
But just we should be happy what it means for the sport. And sports are meant to bring us together. In a world that is so divisive, I really like sports bring us together, whether it's the Super Bowl. And granted, we can dislike each other's teams, but as sports fans, at the end of the day, we are supposed to reunite and be like, hey, that was a great game. Like, we were gonna argue on Twitter, but at the end of the day, I don't hate you because you're a Wolverines fan or a Maple Leafs fan or whatever the case may be. I don't hate you because of that. And the Olympics are supposed to bring us together. And the political discourse within the country is sad. I don't care what Hunter has said or what the name like Jack Hughes said or whoever. I don't care that somebody's partying with Barack Obama or Kash Patel. I don't care. Sports are supposed to bring us together. And in the political discourse that in the country we're in and in the world, sports are bringing us together. And we should be together as sports have given us something to bond over and something to be proud of our teams accomplishing X, Y, and Z, or to be able to go to a sporting event. I'm going to an Anaheim Ducks game on Friday. Like, be proud of the accomplishment that you've been able to see as a fan or whatever the case may be. And I think sports are such an important part of our society and bringing us together. I hate to see it tear us down. And I would challenge anyone that's watching this, like, don't join into the political discourse. Like, be the one that tries to bring us together when it comes to sports. Don't try to tear us apart. You can argue on Twitter with your South Carolina fan and you're arguing with a Clemson fan on Twitter, but at the end of the day, we're all watching the same thing. We're all here for the same thing because sports gives us something to cherish and to remember for the rest of our lives as we will this men's hockey game. So I want to thank you all for joining us. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the Olympics and we will be back on Friday. Thank you so much for listening and God bless.